Lovers Quarrel. It's a long, sustained quarrel.
What's going on, world?
Hey, everybody.
It's your guy, TJ, Mr. New Cool.
And it's your girl, Dani, your ostensibly overwhelmed orangutan.
Oh, my God. What got you overwhelmed? First off, what is the first word? Ostensible? What?
Ostensibly. It means, like, apparently, and for lack of a better term.
Now, did you just find that word, or was that already in your repertoire?
I know, like, I don't use it often, but I know ostensibly, yes.
I mean, listen, you be having shit in your repertoire. I already know.
Well, I try, and but I'm just trying to,
I'm trying to get on your level. I mean, that's the reason why I started the vocab thing. I wanted to make sure that I can, compete. Hopefully.
Well, I appreciate that. I not one for competition. It doesn't have to be a competition except for our word of the week. But
I dust you on anything else.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Anyway, moving right along. So welcome to another episode of Lovers Quarrel. And as always, if this is your first time listening, welcome. If this is your second time listening, welcome back. If this is your third or more time listening, you are family, or as TJ would like to call you, you are a lover.
What's going on, lovers?
So how are you doing, my good sir?
I'm all right. And yourself?
I'm doing pretty good. I cannot complain. It's a rainy Saturday. The weather's been like hit or miss. Like it's like really beautiful, sunny, hot, or it's humid, muggy, rainy. But the only thing is like down here too, especially. So we get the rain, which makes all the cicadas go into hiding. But then whenever it like stops, they come back out. I feel like with a vengeance. And like right now, because it is raining as we record, you can't hear them outside. But like for the last, I guess almost a month now, you literally just hear like this like wall of sound, which is like their mating call. And I mean, the good thing is that it's kind of like it blends into the background for the most part, because you really can't, because it never stops except for like when it stops completely. But then when it's on completely with no like pauses. So for what it's worth, but yeah, that's all I got right now. You ready to jump right into it?
Let's rock.
All right. So I'm going up. Are you going up or down?
I'm gonna say like I'm in the middle. It's not really a down, but it's a up.
All right. So you go first, and I'll go second.
All right.
So which one am I saying? Am I giving like a lukewarm up or a like?
I mean, be creative. Staying here.
First floor.
There you go. Actually, no, we can go up. Come on, let's go up.
All right. Going up.
And the reason why I was saying that is because, now that I've lost a lot of this weight, thank you to the tool of a weight loss surgery, I have an abundance of like clothes that I can fit that before wasn't even an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a up, but the reason I said it was down is because it's like it's an abundance, like shit that I couldn't fit before I can fit.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like relearning what I can fit, what looks good, what doesn't look good. Honestly, makes me want to dress even more. And I think this COVID kind of saved us because it allowed me like to purchase some items, try shit on, figure it out. But like when outside opens back up, I got outfits. I got shit ready, feel me?
Yes,
Don't roll your eyes.
Because you be doing a lot of shopping.
I mean, listen, I've always did a lot of shopping.
Always.
But now it gives me a reason to. And none of my shit fit anymore.
I don't even mind that you do all the shopping as long as you just get rid of the other stuff that don't fit you anymore. You won't, at least not for my taste, I'll say that. You don't part ways with the shit that's too big for you now fast enough for my liking.
I do get rid of it.
You could get rid of it.
A lot of times I'll be trying to wait to like give it to people because I don't like to. Like I stopped giving stuff to Goodwill because Goodwill resells it. So I'd rather give it away to someone for people in need, not give it to Goodwill so Goodwill can make a profit off of it.
I understand that, and I can respect that.
And so I try to give it to people who can be beneficial out of it, and not just give it to someone to sell. So
yeah, but
I've definitely gotten better.
You've gotten somewhat better.
That's crazy.
But you've gotten somewhat better. But you also like you were trying to go like. So there were bags of clothes in the basement that TJ was ready to get rid of, and then he was like, "I just want to see if my brother wants any of this stuff. So next time he comes down, you know, he'll try them on, and if he fits them, great. If not, if he doesn't want them or can't fit them, excuse me, then I'll donate them. His brother had come down at some point, tried on the things he tried on, took what he took. Everything else was to be there. Everything else was to remain there. Was there left over. So I'm like, all right, cool. That means everything else we don't have to go through this again. We could just toss it, like, you know, donate it. We had to go through the bags again.
I had to go through it. No, I didn't go through it again.
When we were in the ones in the basement in the closet.
I didn't go through it. I didn't pull everything out. I looked at the top stuff and I was just making sure that there was nothing else. But that was necessarily, I mean, that was really it. I mean, if anything, I may have went through it because I wanted to make sure that if there was any suits, I wanted to separate them so I can donate them for a suit drive.
Okay.
There's a method to my madness. You may not understand it, you may not like it, but it's a method to my madness.
Can you agree that you have a hard time parting ways with stuff?
I used to. I don't feel like better. I have. I've definitely gotten better. I mean, you're not gonna give me my props.
You've gotten better.
Anytime you give me my props.
No, I'm saying you gotten better. You know what? But I can't expect you to be on the level that I'm on. That's okay.
That's because you don't that's because you're wasteful.
I'm not wasteful.
You don't mind throwing away something, and if you have to rebuy it in the next month or two, or within the next year, you're like, well, it was worth it because it's not here anymore.
Well, you'll keep something and buy it and still buy it, another version of it.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, you will.
Not necessarily.
How many black hoodies do you own?
I own a lot, but that's not a black hoodie is different.
Okay.
Black is my favorite color, even though black is not a color for anyone who's gonna be like, black is not a color.
Oh, and no, we're not gonna hold up on that, but I am happy that you're in a place where you can try on, you know, and expand your wardrobe because you're smaller, so you can try new things, whatever.
Nigga.
I on a personal and arguably selfish note, I would love for you to just also rid yourself of more things as fast as you are adding things to
I have gotten rid of a lot of stuff.
You got a lot of big ass t-shirts that don't fit.
Where are those t-shirts at?
Hanging up in the closet.
So let's go through them when this is over.
Okay, and they're hanging up there, and
I have a lot of like alpha stuff that I just can't donate.
You can give them to other frat brothers.
I can't. No one else wears what I used to wear. Who's not a 4? It has to be my number for me to give them my number stuff.
Shred it.
Again. Anyway.
Well,
it was going up. Now we're going down because Danny over here nagging.
I'm not nagging.
Oh, nagging ass nagger.
Whatever. But, does that conclude your elevator?
Yeah, it has to. oh, nagger.
Well, I'm going to continue going up. And my up for this week, this episode, was that I was successful in getting out of the house not once, but twice this weekend. Ooh. So Friday, I met up with my sister and her friend, our friend, and we went to this like great restaurant lounge called The Manor in downtown Baltimore, and it's, I don't want to say slightly, I call it like a gay bar or gay lounge or anything like that, but it is like, I mean, but it does like that is part of their like target audience or population of patrons, but it has like it just had a really dope vibe. It had like the food was good. I had a cool little mocktail, and then they have like different floors, and they have a lounge area and pool table, and it was just giving you like old school, like very chill. It was just a vibe. And then they did, now I will say like the night like more progressively like became more tailored to like the LGBTQ community, because it was they had a drag show, and then even after that I think there was a party, but I left before the party started. And so I just had an amazing time just being someplace other than the house, being someplace other than like Baltimore County, like between my house, my sister's house, my mom's house, Target, and the grocery store.
But you're so scared to go outside, so it's
I'm cautious about certain places, but I'm not like
sis, you already had the vid, so
okay, but I'm also being mindful. I'm not vaccinated yet. That is something that I will be soon enough, and by the end of July I will have started that process. But I am like, I'm not scary per se, as if it's like I'm not going to be at some like concert right now, like I can't, like, for a multitude of reasons, but I think it's just like it's treading, you know, it's trying to be like tread carefully. Like, yes, things are opening back up.
You want
to be mindful, but I don't want to necessarily be jumping out here like gallivanting or whatever, still knowing that like we have Tatum at home and things like that. So there's like, you know, there was like, we had our own, you know, we were at a table, we were like pretty, you know, we had a decent amount of space between us. The servers were masked, you know, so we had our masks off while we were eating. But then like when we were upstairs in the lounge, like when we had our little section that we were sitting in, we removed our masks then. But like when I was moving around, I had it on. And then, you know, when the show started, I had it on, you know, so it was definitely more of a mixed bag. Like I feel like the more places I go now, you'll see like some people masked, some people not masked. It's still more on the mask side than not, but it's, you know, transition. It is transitioning, but I'm still trying to be careful. So I have relaxed some of my expectations, but I'm not just like out here because I feel like that would be foolish. But it was nice to get out because it's, you know, it's summer. It's the summer after we've all been locked in the house and we can really do stuff. More people feel more confident than ever in doing things. And I'm pregnant. So it's like, I don't even get to like, you know, I don't know. I think I don't get, because of COVID, maybe because I'm pregnant, maybe because of what I don't know. It's not like I'm like, I'm invited certain places, but then it just depends on like.
Because everyone probably know that you're scary. So they like, we're not going to invite her because she's not going to come out. So, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't, but I'm just saying like you've already had it. So you have the antibody. So as long as you're doing the mask and doing everything else, you should be fine.
I understand that. And so
have you ever spoken to your doctor about it? Like, hey, I want to get out the house, but
my OB specifically, my obstetrician specifically, or primary,
or your primary.
Not to my primary. I haven't like specifically talked to my OB about that. I've more so talked about the vaccine and about, you know, antibodies for the baby and all that stuff like that. But I haven't talked about necessarily the level of like outside I can be at this time. I think where I am is good, but ultimately, like, I'm not trying to say like, oh, woe is me, people aren't, you know, inviting me places or whatever, but I will say that like it's because I have been, but it's also just like sometimes there's other things going on, or you know, it's maybe doesn't occur or whatever. So I'm just trying to get back into the fold in a cautious manner, but in a manner that lets me socialize a little bit more, because I can admit that like I've been like, you know, craving a little bit more outside time, socialization time with friends, being places other than just my home. Because as much as I am a homebody, I do enjoy like socialization with the people I love. So that's what it's worth. And then the next day, TJ's colleague invited us. He and his wife were staying downtown, and they have like a hotel, and they have a really nice pool area with a bar and restaurant area. So we were outside and we were able to have lunch or late lunch with them. So that was really nice, and it was just really nice and refreshing to like get up and get dressed and go somewhere. And if I'm being honest, like the summertime, as we're about to be officially in summer as of this time next week, like summer is my favorite season. I just like the sun. I like being out. I like how everybody's outside. I like how everybody's like, I don't know, there's just more daylight and everything like that. I think to me, it just feels like people are generally in a better disposition in the summer than any other time of the year. Excuse me. So it's, you know, it's my favorite season. So that's another reason why I'm very grateful to have been able to get out of the house. But with that, I will stop talking about my elevator, and we can move on to our relationship tip of the week.
And you start that thing off.
Oh, okay. So my relationship tip of the week is based off of a recent experience TJ and I had, exchange or whatever you want to call it. And what it is that in your relationships of any sort, speak your truth. But once you feel like your truth is heard and validated, don't weaponize your truth. Like, don't use it to beat a dead horse or to belabor the point about what you feel about it, right? So, because that was something that I did with a particular subject that between TJ and I waited a long time to really be honest about how I felt. And then once I did get honest about it, if there was an opportunity for me to like reinforce how I felt or to bring up how I felt if the topic came up or it was even near the topic of that, I did. And maybe at one point I didn't feel like my truth was heard or validated, so maybe that's why I did it. But then once it was, then it's really not for me to have to keep kind of driving home that point. So I hope that makes sense to folks, because it's just like, you want to speak your truth, but you don't want to do it to the point where it's like you're just trying to, like, any chance you get, you want to be like, well, this is how I feel, or this is what's going on, or this is my truth, this is my truth, this is my truth. Especially if you've been heard, especially somebody's like, I hear you and I understand you, or I feel you, or I'll change, or I'm sorry, or whatever you're looking for in that situation. Because then it goes from being truthful about it to trying to like overwhelm the person or lord it over them, whatever. And so that's my thing. It's like, just speak your truth, but once you feel like your truth has been validated, then you don't necessarily have to bring it up.
Do you have an example?
Do you want me to use what we talked about?
I'm not even sure what.
We're talking about the name.
I mean, sure, why not?
So the example is, because I can appreciate that my tip can seem a little bit convoluted because of, yeah. So y'all know that we're having a baby. Obviously, you know that it's a boy, and I think we've said on here at least once before that it's going to be it's a boy, so he's going to be named after TJ, and which would make him Terrence the Third, because I don't have we ever said that the T and TJ stood for? Well, TJ is Terrence Jr. So there. And what it came down to
is, no, you gave the world the secret.
Shut up. So what it comes down to is that I have never been a fan of the name Terrence. Like, I don't call TJ Terrence. His dad doesn't really go by Terrence, at least not in personal like relationships or whatever. So I don't call him Terrence. And you know, like, so yeah, I'm just like not the biggest fan of that name, right? And so when what feels like a million years ago, like before Tatum, before we even knew that we were when we knew that we were going to be together, but we knew that we had to think about names, because TJ's family has a tradition of the children in that family names all start with the letter T. So there was, and I have feelings about that in the sense of, like, you know, when I was younger, I was like, oh, you know, some little girls think about what they're going to name their kids like all the time when they're growing up, and I had other names in mind and that I liked, but when, you know, understanding that this was an important tradition to TJ, then I had to you know, put that to the side and start to develop names that started with the letter T that I also liked, because none of the names I had thought of before started with the letter T. So we came up with 2 girl names, 2 boy names, in the event that, you know, whatever combination of kids we had, not that we wanted 4, but just that we had.
No, I wanted 4.
Well,
go ahead.
Anyway, but there was no guarantee we was going to have 2 and 2 either. So, but anyway, point being is we had the names picked out. Then on top of that, TJ, when it came to boy names, TJ always wanted if he had a son, his firstborn son, to be named after him.
I feel like that's most men, but go ahead.
And I have my thoughts and feelings about that, which I can see both sides of. And I wasn't as... So when we had these conversations, which again, I would probably say maybe we started having them more seriously like when we got married, but that was still 3 years before we even got pregnant with Tatum.
You drink, bro? Something in your throat?
I don't know. I'm okay. And TJ wanted to name him after himself, and I really wasn't as upfront or as direct or as honest about me, like, not liking the name Terrence, and then also not necessarily being a big fan of like juniors, thirds, fourths, and so on and so forth. It's just something that, like, it doesn't, like, regardless of who it is, it's just not a thing that I was a particularly big fan of. But because I knew how much it mattered to him, I wasn't as direct about it, right? And honest about it in the beginning. And I don't know if that would have changed the outcome had I been that way. Like, we would have come to the middle and been like, oh, we're going to, we'll still do a teen name, but we'll do a teen name that's not named after you, whatever, for our first son. And so much later, I finally was more candid about like me just not being a fan of the name Terrence in general. Like, it's just not a name. Like, if TJ's name was, I don't know, Tristan, and we were thinking of boy names and the boy name was Terrence came up, I would have been like, no. So, it's just not, it wasn't something that I was a big fan of. And when I finally was honest about it and like kind of direct about it, it hurt TJ's feelings a bit. Cause I mean, obviously your name is your name. And if you have any semblance of like pride or, just like of your name, that can be a bit hurtful. And I understood that. And so that was the first thing. That was me speaking my truth. So that's the first part of this like tip. I can't say that immediately I felt like my feelings were like heard or validated as far as that was concerned. Like, understanding I wasn't trying to be hurtful, but that it's just a preference. Like, I can't say with 100% certainty, like TJ was like, while this hurts me, I understand that, like, it's just a preference thing. But I do think that like over time, he at least accepted it, that like this was just an opinion I had, even though he didn't, it was a bit hurtful to him, whether unintentional or not. And so from that point on, I should have been better at, like, I said what I had to say, and to whatever extent TJ could or should have accepted it, he did. But sometimes, especially probably since we found out this baby is a boy, when that part would come up, I would sometimes like, be a little bit like begrudging about it. Like, yeah, and so that's the part where it's like, you don't want to beat the dead horse, right? Because I've made it clear, I'm not a big fan of that name. Never have been. But I've made that abundantly clear to TJ. And, it's not going to change what we name our son at this point. So, I need to, not kind of like beat him over the head with like, I don't like your name, or it's not my favorite name in the world or anything like that, which is why you never hear me call him Terrence. You'll hear me call him TJ, but there's other nicknames he has that people call him, and I don't call him that. Some people call him TJ. I don't like that really. I don't love that either. And so I don't really call him that, but it's cause it's just a matter of preference. But I think it kind of like, it got bubbled back up in the fact that like the baby's got a name is going to be Terrence too. So that's where that came from. So I hope that this very long-winded relationship tip helps people, in that you want to make sure that you're being honest and direct from the beginning, but you also want to make sure that once your honest and direct truth is heard and validated to whatever capacity it needs to be, that you don't like keep revisiting it, because then that could start to turn into like you're weaponizing it to hurt the other person, which was not my intent. It was just my frustration coming out. But yeah. That's where it is. So I hope that made more sense and clarified, folks. And I hope that made more sense to you. And I hope that
we already discussed it. So I mean, it is what it is. I can't help that. That's my name, and
no, you can't. Absolutely
my name is
not.
my name. I mean, when I was younger, yeah, call me TJ. But now that I'm older and in the professional world, some people want to call me Terrence. Some people want to call me TJ. I mean, the way I feel is like, if you're my friends and family, you call me TJ. If you're someone I work with or whatever, then you may call me Terrence. I mean, that is my name. I'm not going to be like, oh, don't call me. I really don't care. It's not that serious. But to some people, a name is like everything. That's their identity. So,
I mean, I think, like Marlo said, my name is my name, right? So people have a level of...
Yeah, and my name is Terrence. So I'm not...
Yeah. So
I don't hate it. I mean, again, for those who don't like their names, they can always go change it.
They could.
Cool. I'm cool with my name.
And that's all that matters in the grand scheme of things.
Exactly. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Just because you don't like it don't mean...
I'm not saying that you don't... I know that's my cross to bear or whatever, and it's not for...
Shit, I don't like Danielle.
Okay.
Nah, I'm playing. I don't care that much.
Yeah. Well, you're also not... We're not naming any of our kids Danielle or Daniel either.
Definitely not doing Daniel. Unless I could be like, damn, Daniel.
Oh,
You don't remember that?
I do.
Killing with the white vans, Daniel.
I remember. So that's when and I think that's what brought it up. Like, it's
That my wife hates my name.
I don't hate your name. It's just not a name I would have chosen for you or not even for you. I don't really care.
What do I look like?
I mean, to me, you look like a TJ. Like, you look like a, I don't know.
I like a TJ. That's a good answer.
Like, because that's what I call you. Like, what do I call you other than that? And babe, like,
You probably call me motherfucker.
Fucking assholes usually.
Probably. It is what it is. FA.
Yeah. Always initials. See? TJ, anyway, FA.
My relationship tip is accept your differences. As Danny kind of just stated, we have, as we continue growing with each other, this will make 17 years in July. 17 years of being together, 18 years of knowing each other, 8 years of being married. And we have a lot of differences.
A lot.
I'm loud. She's not as loud. I'm funny. She's not as funny. It's just a lot of things. I get fly. She gets fly on occasion.
I was gonna say something so smart right now.
What are you gonna say about my tooth? I already know it.
I got a full set. You rolling with two and a possible.
Oh!
But I'm not funny. Okay.
That was good timing. But you learned that from me. You've been around me long enough that you learn how to get timing.
I was funny before you. I was funny. I'll be funny.
I mean, you were like white person funny. You know what I mean?
No, just because I got highbrow humor. Just because I didn't.
You were like,
I understood all types of humor. You were just more like.
I understood all type of humor.
Caveman
I just
humor.
like the humor that I like.
Okay, and I liked what I like. I like humor that makes you think.
But
I
I'm
like
just
humor
saying,
that makes you, guffaw.
Anyway, like I said, I got you here. So.
You got me here.
Back to what I was saying. I raised you,
Nigga, please.
Accepting our differences. We are learning how to accept our differences. Danny more so than me, I would say, because she doesn't like anything about me.
That's not true.
She don't like my name, so she has to accept that,
I had to come to acceptance because you want to name our son after you. So that's why I had to accept it. If we were naming him something else, it wouldn't really be a thing. Like, yeah, maybe Terrence wouldn't be a name I would pick, but I have like names. I'm
saying that to be joking.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, the major thing is that when you're in relationships, friendships, any type of ships, you have to accept your differences. There has to be like we're not all the same. We were all the same, then we would definitely be boring as fuck. So, accept your differences, accept your partner differences, accept your friends' differences, and that to me will be the key to making sure that your relationship stays strong. It's like, we're not all the same, and that's okay. But accepting, understanding those differences and not judging that person because they think a certain way or they do things a certain way should not be the main catalyst. So, and with that, I yield. I win. Thank you, y'all.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, so that was, a lengthy relationship tip of the week, but we hope that
you're lengthy, See, that's a difference. I'm straight to the point. Danny's going to take 7 years, but it's okay. I have to learn how to, sometimes just be tuning it out.
Okay. You might be more
wrapped it.
You might be more like you're more brief, but it doesn't mean that everybody understands what you're talking about.
Shit, sometimes I don't understand what I'm talking about, but that's besides the point.
Okay. So, anyway, now it is time for our Black History Fact. Would you like to go first?
Yes.
Okay.
My Black History Fact is, on June 13th, 1963, Robert C. Weaver gave his speech, The Negro as an American. He delivered it in New York City, where he articulates the position of moderate civil rights advocates who want a racially integrated society. Mr. Robert C. Weaver was the first African American appointed to a U.S. cabinet level position and the first person and African American to serve on the United States Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, also known as HUD, under President Lyndon B. Johnson. He also was a member of the 45 prominent African Americans known as the Black Cabinet, which was an informal group of African American public policy advisors that was established under Franklin D. Roosevelt. So he was assisting with giving a black voice during the time of brother. Sorry, I went to work real quick. Under Franklin D. Roosevelt, which was during the New Deal. Am I correct, Danny? Mm-hmm. So, I thought that this was just powerful because, you know, the way that they paint African Americans, and I say this often, but the way that they paint African Americans, they made it seem like we didn't do anything. And, you know, these Black History facts just show us time and time again that African Americans were doing stuff. We were limited, but those who got through, they got through. Mm-hmm. They were able to do things, you know. So the fact that he's the first to run HUD and he was the first man, well, yeah, I don't know if there's ever been a woman for HUD, but he was the first person ever, and he was an African American. We don't talk about this stuff, you know, and it's so crazy when you think about it because, again, this is U.S. history.
Yep.
But I've never heard about Mr. Weaver before. Because
that's what they do. They utilize us, and we build this country, and we built this country on our backs, and we contributed every step of the way. But the erasure of Black and Browns people from our history is like as American as apple pie, because that's why they don't understand why people want the recognition that they want right now. So and why that, you know, it's important that we go back. It's important why you have critical race theory. It's important, like, you understand it. It's an entire system. It's not just like
the critical race theory thing is like getting big. Like, people are resigning from schools because
the Republicans need a boogeyman.
So it's I mean, listen, it's up to us to teach our kids and to teach the future generation about Black history and really teach them about Black history. I mean, again, the benefit, I always say social media is the devil, but the benefit of the internet is that we can research it way faster.
The information is there. It can't be hidden from you.
Yeah. Like before, you had to go to the library or look inside an encyclopedia or whatever to find information. Even then, you know, they would switch stuff or whatever, but now you can kind of find anything that you're looking for, and again, it's up to us to figure it out. I mean, again, look at all the great inventions that African Americans made throughout the years. I mean, the fucking great music that we've made, and because we couldn't go on the radio, white people stole it. And
whitewashing.
So
all day, every day. Well, I mean, I think it speaks to it. And that's why we share our history facts every episode, because, you know, what started as something that we just wanted to do for Black History Month like a year or two ago. We were like, fuck it. Like, let's just make sure we highlight something that we didn't know, or maybe we didn't know when it happened, or how long ago, or how recent it happened. And in order to kind of just to broaden our horizons with that. And so to stay on that wave, this is probably a little bit more well known. But on this day that we're recording, which is June 13th, in 1967, Thurgood Marshall, the U.S. Solicitor General, is named to the Supreme Court by President Johnson. He was confirmed by the Senate on August 30th and became the first Black Supreme Court justice.
And he's an alpha.
Yes, that he is.
I was just saying.
Yes.
I don't think you had that in your notes, so.
I did not have that in my notes, but I did know he was an alpha.
I'm just saying, people got to know.
People need to know, yes.
People need to know, you know.
That our Black Greek organizations are filled with many people who are first.
100%. No, I mean, the MPHC, the Black Greek organizations, we have a lot of heavy hitters who historically did a lot of great things. It's just not always projected out there. I mean, if you know, you know, but if you don't know, you might not know. But, you know, because a lot of people think that our organizations are legal gangs and all this other stuff. They think about all the negative things. Again, you know, our organizations are non-hazing organizations, but, you know, there are some bad apples out there. But that's what people associate it with. But when you, like, really think about it, like, the reason why our organization is created and what the members that we've had members in those other organizations, the brothers in my organization, sisters in your organization, like the things that they've done and are doing.
It's remarkable, quite honestly.
100%.
And deserves the recognition that it sometimes gets and sometimes doesn't get. But thank you for sharing that. And, thank you guys for listening to this part and we hope that you learned something. And now it is time for us to transition into what is sometimes the best, worst, or uncomfortable, or whatever you want to call it, part of the show. And that is wait.
Yep, I was going to wait to see if you want to like throw a curveball or not, but if you're afraid, just say that.
I forgot to include TJ's word of the week. So before we get into our quarrel.
You get one little win last week and now you just...
I had a bunch of wins. I had one loss the week before that.
All right then. So again...
Just give me the word.
That's what happens when streaks end.
Okay. Well, this week is another word.
The word is gelid.
Gelid.
Very cold, icy, or frosty.
Those
Alpha brothers over there are gelid.
I have no idea how to spell this. So... Can I hear somebody else pronounce it though, just in case?
That's so crazy.
We have to accept each other's differences. Pronunciation is a difference between you and me.
Gelid.
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 Let me do it one more time for you.
Gelid.
Gelid. Hey, Rebecca, you say it one more time for us?
Gelid.
Yeah. And it means cold, icy, or what?
Very cold, icy, or frosty.
I have no idea.
Okay, well, you still got to go.
I am.
Or you can forfeit.
I'm not going to forfeit. I'd rather spell it wrong and forfeit. Gelid. J or G? Gellot. Which I know is wrong, but...
You said Gellot?
You said gelid. That's what I heard.
Gelid.
Oh, gelid.
That's...
Gelid.
Oh.
You asked for the pronunciation and everything. So
okay.
That's what you heard. I mean, you heard wrong.
Which is fine.
Gelid. Gelid.
Oh. Well, at least I got the first couple letters right.
You did. But you still got it wrong, so it doesn't matter.
And that's okay.
You could have spelled every single letter except for the last one correct. And it still means you took an L, so.
That's okay.
Hold that.
All
Now you can give this amazing introduction to the quarrel. Go ahead.
And now it is time for our Lovers Quarrel. Sometimes, like I said, the most fun or most uncomfortable or most tenuous or most exciting part of the show, depending on where me and TJ take it. And yeah, so with that said, we have our quarrel this week is I guess we kind of started touching on it, or maybe we talked about in our relationship tip was kind of us practicing what we learned about in therapy, right? Because we had, y'all know that we said, we told y'all we started couples therapy, and this past Thursday session went really well. The Thursday before was really bad. And I guess what I wanted to highlight was that, TJ and I learned some like techniques that were, still very fresh and new about, but to practice how we communicate with each other. And, the whole point of this show is that TJ and I, our tagline says, we fuss, we fight, but we love. And fussing and fighting are, inevitable in any relationship. But I think the part that he and I think a lot of people have to work on in their relationships is, as our therapist would say, is becoming each other's safe space. And I think that TJ and I sometimes were each other's safe space, but more times than not, we weren't. What do you...
Say it again?
I think sometimes you and I would be each other's safe space, but I think more times than not, we weren't each other's safe space, because that was part of what the practice of our technique and stuff was. So I was saying, do you agree with that about us not being each other's safe spaces more times than not?
I don't know. I've always looked at you as you could be my safe space, but I think it just depends on what is and what the moment is. But
Well, I think could be is
different.
Yeah, it could be, but like we're not. It wasn't like a like I do you think that like there were things where you were like I can be vulnerable with Dani regarding any topic all the time, every day? Like, did you feel that way? Like,
No,
100%, 100% of the time.
There's sometimes that, depending on what your mood is or whatever, it may not be something, or, you know what I mean? I don't know how to really explain it.
I feel like there were times where like there were things I could come to you with, but then other things that I felt like I could not come to you with because I felt like I wasn't going to be like to the point, like I wasn't going to be so like what our therapist said is like, being a safe space is about hearing and validating the other person's feelings, not just combating them or disagreeing with them or then listening to respond. So you're just sharing what you think. It's about making sure you understand what the other person is trying to say and validating their feelings. And then that way, and understanding where they come from in order to then be able to be clear and then also to be able to do better. And I think that's the part that you and I sometimes miss with each other, excuse me. And I know that like I had that sometimes with you, but I didn't have that all the time. And I would say that's the same way for you. Like you had that sometimes with me, but you didn't have that all the time with me as far as being a safe space. So our therapist went to like a marriage conference the weekend after we had our very like tumultuous session, and she came back and she was like, here's what you guys are gonna, I went to a conference, here's what I learned, here's what I want you guys to practice. And it's all about creating like a dialogue. And the dialogue kind of goes with the thing of like the person is like a sender and a receiver, and the sender says, this is how when you do this is how I feel. And then what's the next step? It's this is how I feel. The person paraphrases it
and confirms that they understood it.
Yes.
The person then confirms if they did or if they didn't, re-explain. Mm-hmm. And then that person the receiver then gets to ask, like, is there anything else?
Yeah, like if you want to elaborate on anything.
That person gets to do that. Then the receiver gets to inquire, what part of the past, like, what does this remind you of in your past?
Yeah, like your childhood and things like that.
Because our therapist believes that a lot of our traumas and issues are based off of stuff that happened to us as kids.
Yeah,
which I do think there are some.
There's definitely truth to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not everything, but there's a lot of things as far as how we handle conflict and how we respond to conflict. So we learn that, and then that way, like once you make that connection, then you can start to like validate what that person's saying, and then ultimately you can then say like, okay, well this is what I won't do anymore. This is what I will start doing anymore to make sure that you feel validated. And then you swap, because then that person can then say how they feel when you responded away, if you're the person in that situation, if that's the dynamic in the moment. So I found it really helpful, because sometimes it's like we know how to communicate, but it's just like why if like we need directions or supports or guidance in how to do so many other things, like assistance in other ways, why wouldn't we get it in how to best communicate with our partner? But I would love to hear what you think about our therapy and like what was going on, and what else you want to talk about.
We had a breakthrough. I've always been one to be willing to try things and change and grow and take feedback. So, it's very weird to have to do it this way, but I do think that the more you do it, it becomes second nature. But I do think that it helps kind of deconstruct your guards, because you have to remember how you do it, and you can't just, it's kind of like the communication that you may want, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. You know, because I get loud. If I'm happy, I'll get loud if I'm angry. And Danny sometimes does not like my loudness because, I mean, that's fair, but I'm also one who's like, listen, I'm not yelling at you. I'm just yelling because that's who I am, but I can understand how it can make someone feel, right? So this kind of helps with being able to make sure that you're understanding, and honestly, it helps you listen to understand and not listen to respond. Mm-hmm. I think that's a major thing. I mean, again, we're not perfect, but, you know, things have been tough, and, you know, again, we're adding another child into the world. Danny emotions are through the roof, so if I smile at her wrong, she might cry. That's a joke.
I know. And I'm not that emotional.
But you are emotional.
I'm an emotional person, but
and
pregnant.
you're already emotional. So
Yeah.
I mean, I've never cared about how emotional Danny gets. Like it just is what it is. But you know, that's stuff that she has to overcome from her childhood and stuff like that. But I will agree that us having that conversation and us being able to break it down and us being able to do it, even though I was frustrated and stuff like that, I can see it working. It's something that, again, it's going to take time. We're going to have to continue doing it together. But can it work? It definitely can work. So I was excited to try it. And I'm pretty sure our therapist is going to be extremely excited about the progress we've made. And, you know, because again, we're being purposeful to make sure that our relationship stays strong.
Yeah.
And, you know, again, we've argued and we've said things that we probably didn't mean or said things that hurt each other and stuff like that. And that's going to happen in relationships. But it's really about how can you be better. And again, we have a daughter and soon a son. And we have to model the behaviors of what we want them to project out there to their, you know, future partners and stuff like that. And I don't want Tatum thinking that, you know, if you show emotions, then it's a weakness or whatever, which is why again, before we had Tatum, I always told Danny, like, if you cry, my nigga. Like, that's just who you are. I accept it for what it is, you know? Because like I told Danny, people can cry and still punch you in the face, right? So, you know, you can laugh and joke about whatever until he punch you in the face. And I think Mike Tyson had the famous quote, like, everybody knows what to do until they get punched in the face. So just saying that to say, like, just because you're crying doesn't mean that you're weak. It just means that that's how you release your emotions for me. But, you know, we want to do things so that way our children are better for society, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's a major thing that of being a parent is about. Like, you're raising someone not to be an asshole. You're raising someone to be beneficial to society and not a taker, abuser, user of society. So, you know, these little small tidbits of making sure that our daughter sees stuff. Again, she's seen me and Danny go at it, but she's also seen me come back and apologize. She's also seen me, I've apologized to her. I've apologized to her mother in front of her because, again, I want her to be able to see that while mommy and daddy gets into an argument or gets heated or whatever, they came back and they apologized. Mm-hmm. They came back and had a conversation, and I saw it. So they can, so she could see the beginning, the middle, and the end, as opposed to like when I grew up, we seen our parents argue, and then they were good. We never seen the middle. We never seen what transpired, how they got back together, or whatever.
The conflict resolution.
Yeah, and it was never like they came to us and was like, "We're sorry that you had to see that" or anything like that. It was just like, you know, it was what it was. So. You know, I do think arguing is a part of relationships, but it's just about how you argue and what you argue about and what you say. You know what I mean? We've talked about it before. What's that? Malcolm and Marie. Mm-hmm. You know, seeing that movie, some people was like, oh my God, it's the worst movie ever. But I took a lot from it. And, you know, a lot of times we argue to win. We're not arguing to understand or arguing to come to a solution, or we're arguing because we disagree on something. This is going to help us. We're arguing to win. And sometimes we go too far in our arguments, you know, or we may say the wrong things, or we're going to touch stuff because I want you to hurt the way that I hurt. And then when you say it's like, oh shit, I wanted you to hurt, but I didn't want you to hurt that bad. Mm-hmm. And, you know, as my wife says, words mean things, and you can't take that shit back a lot of times.
Yeah, you can't. And that's why, you know, I think it's been really, it's been therapeutic. It's been hard. Like I won't even hold you. Like these last weeks, maybe months, like TJ and I have been good. Like when we're good, we're good. But when we're not, we haven't.
We have not been on the same page. You don't gotta.
Yeah, and
sugarcoat it.
It's been really hard for me in the sense of like feeling really misunderstood and then feeling really like emotional about being misunderstood, feeling kind of alone, and feeling kind of hurt, like, you know. And tell me what you think when like I told you the thing about like breaking my heart. Like, how did that make you feel?
I mean, it hurt. I mean, nobody wants to break the person that they love heart or anything like that. I mean, I also don't think that I have to acknowledge how you feel. I also don't think that it's always fair because, again, if my intention is not to break your heart and your heart gets broken, is it like, you know what, I know that he didn't mean to, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I understand.
Does that make sense? What I'm trying to articulate?
And for that reason is the reason why when you come back and you apologize, I forgive you. I don't say you're going to do it again anyway, even though sometimes you do it again anyway, because I know you and I know that you're not intending always on being hurtful, even though you're trying to speak your truth. Like I can it's levels to TJ. Like TJ has the unintentional, loud, over the top version of himself when he's just speaking his truth, and then TJ has his like, I'm going for your fucking jugular. And what sometimes he doesn't realize is that when he's still in that space of like, I'm just trying to be honest, but I'm not choosing my words carefully, that part still can hurt just as much as if when he's like really trying to like hurt me. And that's why, you know, I said to him, you know, I love you so much. I said, but sometimes when you talk to me a certain way, it like legit breaks my heart. Like I physically feel it in my chest. And that's why, you know, it's so much easier for me to become withdrawn or to just kind of like remove myself or to just, you know, cry or whatever. But, you know, I'm working on being more direct and upfront about how I feel, good, bad, or indifferent, because what I realized too is that my attempts to choose my words so carefully to make sure they go over as well as like I think that they will go over with TJ don't end up working to my favor. And that's something that I have to work on and I have to get better at and like and exercise that muscle, because if I don't, then, you know, TJ feels like I'm being unfair to him, or I'm not unfair to him, but like untruthful to him. Like I'm not being honest, even though like I'm saying the same things, but if I'm using fluffy words or I'm trying to say it in a very not calm, but like very like flowery language. And then when I finally get fed up and I come with a more direct one, he feels like, well, now we're getting at the truth of it, but now you've let hours, days, weeks, months go by, and now you're finally getting at it, and he feels like that's unfair to him, which it is. So it's a thing of like us just trying to continue to work on these things, because neither of us are perfect. And, you know, I don't think that either of us necessarily approach any situation with the idea of like, I'm going to fuck with this person today. TJ's not walking in like, let me see how I can fuck with Dani. Dani's not saying, how am I going to fuck with TJ and start World War III or something like that. That's not what we're seeking to do, but it sometimes feels that way. And that's why we, you know, the idea to go to couples therapy pretty much as soon as we found out we were having another baby came into the fold, because it was like, we're going to need to get better at this. And I think now even more than ever, to what you were saying, babe, is like, we're about to have 2 kids. We're about to have a son and we already have a daughter. And they also need to see what like modeling like healthy communication looks like, even when you're in conflict, because I don't want them looking at either of us and thinking that that's the like in our worst communication methods. Like I don't want them seeing those communication methods that me and you utilize against each other or with each other, and thinking that that's acceptable. I don't want them looking at either of us and how we are treated and thinking that's acceptable when we're not treating each other the way we deserve to be treated. Because especially like having a child of both sexes now, you know, there's going to be dynamics that come into play of like, this is how my mother is, so that's how I should be if I'm Tatum, and this is how my dad is, so this is how I should be if I'm Trey. Or, you know, because that stuff gets internalized. Or, you know, it could be the opposite, right? It doesn't even have to be with like just because I'm a girl and Tatum's a girl. It could be Tatum could, you know, internalize TJ's approach, and then Trey could be more like me and we're more withdrawn. And what I don't want is for them to. I want to practice and I think we want to practice and work on these things, because that way they know bullshit when they see it with somebody's how somebody's talking to them, and they also know what's like effective. And they can engage with people, and ultimately, when they become adults, their partners in a healthy manner, and can identify when it's unhealthy. You know, giving them all new hangups, and you know, the least we can do is work on our shit, so that way they can find all new hangups to be, you know, go to therapy about us when they get older. Is what I always say. But that's all I have. I mean, I think this wasn't really a quarrel, but this was more of like a how we're coming back from doing all the quarreling. And we quarreled a bit this weekend about the name thing, but we practiced the dialogue, and it's going to take more practice, but we at least attempted it, which I think is a step in the right direction.
No, I mean, definitely. I mean, again, the quarrel doesn't always have to be us going at it. I mean, again, giving insight on how we went through something and how we recovered, I think is also important too. It's different sides to us. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes we, you know, it just is what it is, you know? So, but I like talking about it, you know? I like to be able to listen back to it and kind of, you know, give our insight on what it is. We're not perfect, and what works for us may not work for other people, but it may make someone say, oh shit, I didn't even think about it that way. Or, you know, let me try to do that. I mean, again, because relationship is all about communication.
Always.
And again, it's sometimes it's, you know, based off of how you're raised and how you look at things, it can be how you respond and react to things, right? So I grew up with a father who was loud. Shit, my whole family's loud. Have you ever met a Byerson, a Singleton? If they have any part of a Byerson, 9 times out of 10, shit, I may even say 10 times out of 10, they're loud. When we talk, we're loud. When we're happy, we're loud. When we're angry, we're loud. An argument for us is like a good time. Mm-hmm. You know, and that could be a lot for a lot of people. But learning how to separate when to have those and stuff like that. Like I said, I'm grateful for Dani, because Dani's very patient. So I'm able to learn. I'm able to grow and kind of learn how to do things differently, because I have a partner who allows me to, you know, allow me to have the bumps in the roads and all the other stuff. Somebody else may not have done that. So you know, like I've said previously, finding the right partner is the most important thing, but also being willing to grow and change who you are. Again, and it's not I'm changing who I am because that's what Dani, but it's like, I don't want to hurt her feelings. Like, to hear your wife say that you're breaking her heart, I can't speak for everybody else, but for me, that's not a highlight. That's not something I ever want to hear and stuff like that. And, you know, it kind of starts with this. I mean, even when we argue on the show, you know, I have to, you know, my friend, shout out to my man Rock, he always says, like, he tells you to go over my head or
go upside your head.
Yeah. So, you know, and I get it. You know, I can be a lot, but my wife understands me, and, you know, it's about learning and growing and changing. Because, again, I don't want her to be, I don't want Dani to have regrets. I don't want her to secretly start hating me or anything like that. And, you know, this thing just comes with time. But as you grow, like I said, I want to grow old with Dani, and I want us to have great times. And, you know, we got to get through these arguments and everything now, so that way we have a better foundation and growth. And again, we're welcoming another child, and that's going to change. And, you know, how do we manage that while still being husband and wife and working full time and everything else, right? Because when you have kids, life don't stop.
Sure don't. And that's I think that's what it comes down to is like we just want to be the best versions of ourselves for ourselves, but then also for each other and for our kids. Because like this, you know, we're in it for the long haul. We're not trying to go anywhere. And, you know, I do wholeheartedly like accept TJ for who he is. But know, what I was going to say is that I accept you wholeheartedly for who you are, but it doesn't mean that sometimes it can't be a lot to take on. Sometimes when it's I'm there all day, I'm the recipient of all day, every day, TJ, you know, and just like you're the recipient of all day, every day, Dani, and our general demeanors are different in a lot of ways. And we accept the differences in each other, but it doesn't. And so like, yeah, I accept the loud, gregarious, you know, extra dramatic, argumentative, whatever you want to call it side of you, because I also know that there's the kind, the tender, the funny, the smart, the, you know, thoughtful side of you as well. But it doesn't mean that sometimes when I have to contend with the rougher sides of you, the harder to manage sides of you, it doesn't mean that doesn't become a lot for one person to bear. But it's just like how it just could be a lot for you to bear with me being like sensitive and emotional and, you know, long-winded. And
but it's about sharpening your tools. It's about growing, and it's about changing who you are. And just because you are okay with me year 8 don't mean that year 17 you're going to be still comfortable with it. Who's not to say that when the new baby come, me yelling, you may not like that. So it's better that we try to change the things now as this comes up, as opposed to waiting for it to be like too far gone. Mm-hmm. You know?
No, I get it. And that's really why why we do this, and, you know, why we record and why we go to therapy and all that stuff like that. 'Cause we just want to be right, do right, you know? And, you know, I don't want to do this with anybody else. And you couldn't do this with anybody else.
Got your rabbit ass man. I'm a catch. Fuck wrong with you? Go ahead. You want to say something about my tooth?
No, I'm not. No.
Yeah, and see, that's the difference. That's why you're not as funny as me.
No.
Because you got to take the low-hanging fruit.
I'm not going to take the low-hanging fruit. I did it once. It was good. I'm not going to do that. And I said, because I'm like, you just like, the joke is always like, you're a lot. Like, you know, our friends do have jokes like, nobody else is going to put up with me.
Are your friends, and are they married?
Some are.
No, the ones who say that. They're not. Exactly.
Okay, that's fine. But maybe
do they have a man? They don't.
Not currently. Doesn't mean they've never had a man.
Where he at, though?
Because
or
she knows her worth, and she's not going to, or they're not going to settle for whatever. And that's fine. Okay. Mm-hmm. Excuse me, your friends say it too. Your guy friends.
They're in relationships, though. They can talk.
But they
truth, have the real estate to have the conversation.
The truth is the truth. If you got
and
eyes
and ears,
a lot
for them. The fuck? They may be a lot. The fuck?
They probably are.
Everybody is a lot.
I'm not a lot.
I don't want to have to tell the world about who you really are.
We're going
to allow this one to go. Thank you all for another episode of Lovers Quarrel. You know.
Yeah, do the close out.
No,
I'm not who I am, so I'm not who I say I am.
That's who you are. Go ahead, close us out, love.
Whatever. It's been yet another episode of Lovers Quarrel. You know, you can find us on Instagram at Lovers Quarrel Show, on Twitter at Lovers Quarrel 7.
Where else?
And email us at loversquarrelshow@gmail.com.
Or,
as always, I'm your girl Dani.
And I'm your guy TJ.
And you know that we fuss.
We fight, but we love. Bye. Oh, buckethead ass.
Shut the hell up.
Say bye-bye.
Bye-bye.